Have you ever noticed how you just know when something's off in a room before anyone's even said a word? The mood is shifted, someone's upset, something isn't right, and you picked it up before anyone else did. Most people call that sensitivity or intuition, but there's actually a name for it. It's called traumatic intelligence. And once you understand what it is, a lot of things start to make sense. Traumatic intelligence isn't an official diagnosis. It's a name people are starting to use for something very real. The kind of intelligence that develops when you had to become highly alert, highly perceptive, and highly adaptive just to feel safe. Think of it like this. A security scanner at an airport doesn't choose to scan. It's built to do one thing: detect things that might be dangerous. It runs continuously. It processes every bag. It flags anything that matches a pattern it's been trained to recognize. It doesn't rest between passengers. It doesn't decide whether this particular flight is high risk. It just scans. That's what happened with you. At some point, usually when you were young, in an environment that was unpredictable or tense or just hard to read, you learned to do the same thing. Read every room. Detect shifts in mood, in tension, in what wasn't being said. Not because you chose to, but because it worked. In that environment, it was useful to know. The thing is, the scanner doesn't know the danger is gone. There are some signs that can tell you whether yours still is. First sign: you read the room before you've even sat down. You walk into a space and within seconds you already know something about it. Who's tense? Who's pretending to be fine? Whether the mood is what it appears to be. Two people laughing looks the same to most people. You can already tell which one is actually relaxed and which one is performing. Most people walk into a room and have a conversation. You walk in and immediately start reading it. The specific quality of someone's laugh, the way a conversation goes quiet half a beat too long, who's looking at who. You've been logging that kind of information since before you had words for it. Another sign: you prepare for conversations like something might suddenly shift. Before a difficult conversation, you've already run it in your head, multiple versions of it. What they might say, what you'll say back, what happens if they react differently than you expected. By the time the conversation actually happens, you've rehearsed most of it already. This looks like anxiety from the outside, and sometimes it is, but mostly it's preparation. When you grew up somewhere that could shift without warning, you learned to map things out before walking in. That habit doesn't just stop. Here's another sign. People bring you their problems because you stay steady in emotional storms. You didn't volunteer for this. You didn't put up a sign. But somehow, people know. Friends, colleagues, family members, sometimes near strangers. They find you when they need to talk. And they're right to. Because when things get heavy, you don't panic. You don't look away. You don't rush them toward a resolution so you can feel comfortable again. You stay. You got good at that because you had to. Staying calm when everything around you was getting tense was something you practiced before most people even knew it was a skill. And people can feel it.
A big sign. You feel exhausted after situations others experience as neutral. A dinner, a work meeting, a family gathering where nothing dramatic happened. Everyone else leaves fine and you need to decompress. Not just tired, you need quiet, stillness, more recovery time than the situation seems to call for. Here's why. While everyone else was having a conversation, you were doing something else at the same time. Reading the room. Tracking who was tense. Noticing what wasn't being said. Making note of who seemed off. All of that without being asked to, without choosing to, often without knowing you were doing it. Of course you're tired. You were doing something no one else in that room was doing. Then there's this sign. You can be deeply present for others, but being truly seen feels exposed. You're warm. You listen well. People feel understood around you. But when the attention flips to you, something shifts. You answer, but you give enough rather than everything.
You tend to be the one who asks, not the one who's asked. And that's not an accident. Reading people was once useful. Being fully known was once risky. So you learned to give without requiring the same back. It just became the way you move through things. Giving comes naturally. Being on the receiving end is harder. Related sign. You struggle to fully rest, because stillness gives the scanner nothing to do. When things go quiet, something in you resists it. There's a pull to check something, do something, keep some kind of process running. A quiet Sunday afternoon can actually feel harder than a full week at work. Not because you love being busy, because when nothing needs scanning, the scanner gets restless. For most people, quiet means safe. For you, quiet was sometimes when things were about to shift. So part of you stays a little bit on, even when you're resting. Still running, looking for the thing that isn't there. And maybe the most important sign. You spent years thinking this was your personality, not your adaptation. You've probably had all of this for so long that it just feels like who you are. The sensitivity, the anxiety, needing more recovery time than other people seem to need. You just figured that was you. But they're also a response. Something your mind and body figured out because a specific environment asked it of you before you were old enough to have a say. That changes how you can look at them, not as flaws or destiny, just as something that formed for a reason, at a specific point in your life. What do you actually do with that? Traumatic intelligence is a real kind of smart, but it's expensive. It costs attention, presence, and rest that most people around you never notice you spending. Naming it doesn't switch the scanner off, but it gives you something. The ability to tell the difference between an environment that actually requires your vigilance and a habit that keeps offering it even when the danger is gone. And once you can see that difference, a few things open up. First, the scanner is more useful when you choose to use it. Right now, it's probably running all the time. At dinner with people you've known for years, at the grocery store, on quiet evenings when nothing is happening. Once you know that's what's happening, you start to notice when you're actually choosing to read a room and when it's just a habit. That gap is small at first, but it's real. Second, this kind of intelligence is genuinely valuable in certain situations. A hard conversation. A moment when someone really needs someone who won't miss anything. Those are the rooms it was built for. The question is whether you're bringing that level of attention everywhere, including all the places that really don't need it. Third, the tiredness makes sense. When you leave a situation exhausted and everyone else is fine, that's not you being fragile. You were doing more than they were. Knowing that doesn't make it less tiring, but it changes what recovery looks like. It's a cost, not a character flaw. And fourth, not everyone in your life carries the same risk as the environments that built the scanner. Some people are genuinely safe. The habit of keeping the door mostly closed doesn't have to apply everywhere. You can try being a little more open in the specific places where it's actually okay to be. Traumatic intelligence isn't something to get rid of. It formed for a reason, and it still works. What changes when you have a name for it is that it stops feeling like just how you are. It starts feeling like something you developed, something that made sense once, and something you now get to decide when to use.